everyone, and welcome to the part 1 of this video. In this video you get to learn how to draft the patterns for this blouse that you can see right here on your screen. If this is something you're interested in learning, make sure to keep on watching, and also make sure you watch this to the end before you watch the part 2, which includes the sewing version. Without any further ado, let's get into the tutorial proper. Now on the pattern paper, I'm going to rule out a straight line at the top part, which is going to serve as the starting line, so all my measurements will start from that line downwards. Place your measuring tape on the starting line and mark your shoulder to your bust point. Leaving the tape on the starting line, mark your shoulder to your under bust line. Still leaving the tape on the starting line, mark your shoulder to your waistline, and then mark your full length, your desired full length. Now make horizontal lines across each of these points that we just marked. Next, we indicate the lines as explained. We have BP for bust points, UB for under bust, WL for waistline, and then FL for the full length. Right on this side of the pattern paper, mark 3 inches or 3.5 inches for your neck width. Mark downwards 3 inches for the neck depth and connect those 2 points together with a curve. Still on the starting line, take your shoulder measurement, divide it by 2 and mark what it gives you, just as seen. Right on the shoulder line, mark 1 inch downwards, which is going to be for the shoulder slope. Now connect a slanted line from this 1 inch to meet the neck width of 3.5 inches that we marked earlier. From this new shoulder line, take your round armhole measurement, divide it by 2 and mark what it gives you, just as seen. Now you want to make sure that this measurement is sitting at the width of your shoulder line, which will enable us to have a straight line by the time we connect it downwards. Also make an horizontal line at this point as well, which is going to be the armhole line or the chest line. The armhole line, which is 8 inches, divided by 2 gives us 4 inches. Right where we have the midpoint, mark inwards half an inch. Take your round bust measurement divided by 4. Mine gives me 9.75. Mark it right at that armhole line there. Place your French curve or any type of curve rule that you have at this point. So you're going to make sure that a part of it is touching the shoulder line, a part is touching the half an inch that we mark inwards, and a part is touching the bust measurements that we have on that armhole line. And in one swipe, you should be able to get your armhole curve. Take your apex measurement, which is your nipple to nipple measurement, divide it by 2 and mark what it gives you on the bust point line, on the under bust line, on the waistline, and also on the full length. This apex line is going to enable us to get our darts. Connect all the points together with a straight line. We'll take the regular darts, so on the left side of that waistline, mark half an inch just as seen, and on the right side, mark 1.5 inch or 2 inches depending on how busty you are. Now connect this measurement from the waistline to the full length in a slanted form, and also connect it to meet the bust points in a slanted form. The effect of the dart is centered on the waistline, and I want this to be a dartless blouse, so I will just extend this dart from the waistline to the under bust line and to the full length with a straight line just as seen, using just the dart measurements as a guide. I'll also repeat the same process to the left side. I'll extend that dart line there to the under bust and to the full length, which will make it have a straight line. This way, the blouse can be a dartless blouse, but still yet is going to have the bustier effects that it needs to have. On the left side, we'll blend in this dart line that was extended into the bust points with a slanted line just as seen. And for the right side, we'll blend in that dart extension with a curve just as seen. Remember, we already applied the bust measurement to the armhole line, so we are going to skip the bust point and move to the under bust. Take your round under bust measurement, divide it by 4, mark it just as seen. Now we'll take the measurement we have in that dart area, which is 2 inches, and we'll replace it at that other side, and that is because we will be cutting out the darts.
Hi guys, this is Editing Jess here. I just wanted to let you guys know that while I was recording, the phone went off and a part of it was no longer recording, and part of the video was done off the camera, but it's like a very simple and basically it's like a very tiny part. And in case you are wondering, the next clip that's coming is going to explain everything, and in case you are scared that you're not going to understand, no, you're going to understand, because I made sure it was as simple as ABC. So don't be scared. I just wanted to let you guys know because of the next clip that is coming.
So we took the round under bust measurement, we divided it by 4 we marked it right there, and then we proceeded to take what was in the dart, which is 2 inches, and we marked it at that point. Now on the waistline, we took the round waist measurement divided by 4 and marked it right there, and then took what was in the dart and replaced it over there. On the full length, we took the hip measurement divided by 4, which is 10.5, marked it right there and replaced that dart measurement there. And we're replacing the dart measurement because we are going to be cutting out that dart space. So proceeded to connect the lines from the waist to the underbust and from the underbust to the bust measurements that we marked on the armhole line earlier. And then we connected it to the full length just as seen. Right at this underbust line on this left side here, I marked 1.5 inch upwards. You can decide to use your bust point line or just use your underbust line directly. And then we created a slanted line from the neck width of 3.5 inches that we already have to that point. That is going to be the neckline of this blouse. And like I said, you can freestyle this to be deeper or higher. Take your curve rule and create a curve from this neckline to the dart area that we have on the left side of the underbust line, just as seen. From the side seam area there on the bust point line, mark downwards 1 inch for the bust darts or the side darts. This is going to help tighten the halter at the bust area since there is no other darts aside the basic ones that we have on the lower part. So after marking that, connect it to meet the bust point just as seen. Remember the apex measurement we took earlier, which was 4 inches. Now we're going to mark 4 inches from this apex measurement to this other side, and then we'll create a curve from this underbust line here to meet the 4 inches that we marked on the bust point line, and then we'll just connect it straight into the armhole line just as seen. Over to the shoulder line, mark 1.5 inch right there, and I'll blend in either a curve or a slanted line into the armhole line. Just make sure it blends into the armhole line. Either you decide to use a slanted line or using the curved part of your French rule of a French curve is still going to give you a nice result. So this is what the neckline we're going to be working with now. This part is totally optional, but I want my blouse to have a bit of shape, so I marked 2 inches upwards from the full length, and I'll connect it as seen to just meet this dart area here, just to give it a bit of shape, just a nice curve there. Next, we'll have to close up one of the darts, which is the side dart. So cut through your apex measurements just as seen, just cut through to that point, and then cut through your bust point line just as seen. Now that we've cut through the both parts that has a dart, we'll close up the side darts just as seen. And as I'm closing it up, you notice that the darts on the lower parts will open, and that's what we call dart transfer. So you're going to tape down these parts that you've already closed, and you can see that some of the lines have been altered, which we are going to correct immediately. So the first one we're going to correct is the cup of the halter neckline. We're going to blend it in properly so it aligns. And then the second one is the side seam. We are going to blend it in properly so it aligns just as seen. Now we can proceed to cut out the front pattern, and also we are going to label all the parts of this pattern. Here we have CF for center front and SF for side front. I'll draw some arrow placements which will make the patterns a lot more easier to understand. For the back pattern, I already drafted a basic bodice, which is same thing we did with the front piece. The only difference is I marked 1.5 inch at this point, which is going to be for zip allowance. That is one of the major difference. And then all the measurements started from that zip allowance. So we have the shoulder to the bust point, shoulder to the underbust, shoulder to the waist, shoulder to the full length. And then the second difference is going to be the armhole line. So after marking the midpoint of the armhole line, on that chest line there, take your round bust measurement, divide by 4 and mark it there. Now you're just going to connect a curve from that midpoint to meet that bust measurement we have there. We don't have to go inwards by half an inch. Next, you take your apex measurements, which is your nipple to nipple measurement, divide by 2.
you're going to mark it from the chest line down to the full length. Like I said, this line helps us to get our dart line. So we'll connect those points together with a straight line. And in order to take the dart, we're going to focus on the waistline. So on the left side, I'll take 1 inch, and on the right side, I'll take 1 inch. I'll take equal measurements on both sides. This is the back piece, and we'll connect a slanted line to meet the chest line and to meet the full length, just as seen. The focus of this dart is at the waistline, so we are still going to extend it to the chest line with a straight line, and also extend it to the full length with a straight line. And that's because I mentioned earlier that I want this to be a dartless blouse, and this is the easiest way to go about making a dartless blouse. We already applied the bust measurements on the chest line, so we'll take the dart allowance, which is 2 inches, and apply it there. So we'll skip the bust points and we'll move to the under bust line. Make sure that all your measurements are starting from the zip allowance line. So take your round under bust measurement, divide by 4, apply it, and replace the dart allowance that we have there, which is 2 inches. Also to the waistline, take a round waist measurement, divide by 4, and then apply your 2 inches. We'll repeat same for the hip line, for the full length, which we are using the hip measurement, and then we'll place the 2 inches for the dart line. So we'll connect all these lines together just as seen. After applying the basic measurements, bring in your side fronts, because we'll be needing it as a guide for this point. So make sure that the waistline aligns, and first thing we'll do is to mark that shape that we gave the blouse, so it aligns with the back piece as well. And then making sure that the waist here aligns, tilt your front pattern just as seen, and you will see that the back pattern is now shorter, which is because of the side darts that we took at the front. And so since we have made it shorter, there will be no need for us to take a zip bulge dart. This should be able to reduce zip bulge because the center front is now longer than the side back and the side front and the center back. Only the center front is longer. So close up the darts in order to create the back neckline. So we'll create a curve from that armhole line there into the bust point line, and then we just extend it into the zip allowance there. So the reason why I folded the darts before doing that was to get accuracy. So I'll just place my rule so you can see that if I had gone ahead, it would have not aligned. So this is basically everything. We have SB for side back, CB for center back. We'll do some arrow placements and we'll proceed to cut this out. This is basically everything for this portion of this video. So if you want to see the sewing parts, which is very detailed and well explained, do also check the next video that is coming up, and I'll see you guys in my next video. This is all the patterns we'll be working with. Make sure you watch that video in order to get the full gist. See you in my next video. Bye.